Imagine this. You're standing at your husband's graveside, the dirt still fresh on the casket, when your phone buzzes with a message that shatters your world forever. He's not really dead. Your son's made sure of it. What would you do if the people you loved most turned out to be monsters? This is my story, a nightmare of betrayal in the heart of Texas that I lived through. Buckle up, because once you hear it, you'll never look at family the same way again. My name is Clara Ramirez, and at 70 years old, I've seen the best and worst that life can offer. Born in a tiny border town in South Texas, where the sun scorches the earth and the wind carries whispers of better days, I grew up knowing the value of hard work. My parents were migrant workers, picking cotton and fruit from dawn until dusk. Life was hard, but it taught me resilience. At 16, I dropped out of school to help the family, landing a job as a waitress at a roadside diner off Highway 84. The place was nothing fancy, greasy spoons, truckers coming through, and the constant hum of the jukebox playing old country tunes. That's where I met Miguel. He walked in one sweltering afternoon in 1978, fresh from Vietnam, his uniform still crisp, but his eyes shadowed by horrors he never fully shared. He was 28, tall with broad shoulders, and he ordered black coffee and apple pie. "Best pie in Texas, ma'am," he said with a shy smile that melted my heart. I laughed, wiping my hands on my apron. "Flattery will get you an extra slice, soldier." We talked for hours that day about the war, the ranch he dreamed of buying with his GI Bill, and the simple life he craved after the chaos overseas. "Clara," he said, his voice low and earnest, "life's too short for complications. I just want peace, land, and someone to share it with." We courted for 6 months, stealing moments under the stars or driving his old pickup to the river. "You make me forget the nightmares," he'd whispered during our drives, his hands squeezing mine. I proposed on a Tuesday evening. No, wait, he did, down on one knee with a ring he'd saved for months to buy. "Marry me, Clara. Let's build something real." Our wedding was simple, a small church ceremony with my family and his few army buddies. Wildflowers from the fields served as my bouquet, and we danced to mariachi music at the reception. That night, we drove to our new home, 200 acres of scrubby land outside Lubbock, bought with every penny he had. The house was a fixer-upper with a leaky roof and creaky floors, but it was ours. "This is our kingdom, mi amor," Miguel said as we crossed the threshold, carrying me like a bride in a movie. The first years were tough. Miguel worked the ranch relentlessly, herding cattle, baling hay, fixing machinery until his hands bled. "One day we'll have it all running smooth," he'd say, collapsing into bed at night. I planted a garden, raised chickens, and took in sewing jobs from neighbors to make ends meet. We were poor, scraping by on beans and rice some months, but our love was rich. We'd sit on the porch at night, his arm around me, watching the stars blanket the Texas sky. "Clara, as long as we have each other, we're the richest folks in the world," he'd murmur, kissing my forehead. Our first son, Javier, arrived in 1983. A healthy boy with Miguel's dark eyes and my curly hair. Holding him for the first time, I felt my heart expand. "He's perfect, Miguel. Look at those tiny hands." Miguel beamed, cradling him gently. "Our little vaquero. He'll grow strong like his papa." 2 years later, Luis joined us, a chubby baby who smiled from day one. "Another fighter," Miguel laughed, bouncing him on his knee. Those early days with the boys were pure joy. Miguel was an incredible father. He'd take them riding on horseback, teaching them to lasso calves and respect the land. "Boys, this ranch is your heritage," he'd tell them over campfires. "Work hard, stay honest, and family comes first." Sundays were family days. Church in the morning, then a big barbecue with brisket, beans, and my homemade tortillas. The boys would run wild, building forts from old hay dales, pretending to be cowboys chasing outlaws. "Mom, watch me rope this bad guy," Javier would yell, Luis giggling behind him. Laughter echoed across the fields, and life felt perfect. As they grew, though, the cracks began to show. Javier was always the leader, ambitious, questioning everything. At 12, he started reading books about oil tycoons, fascinated by the booms happening across Texas. "Dad, why don't we drill? This land could be worth millions," he'd argue at dinner. Miguel would shake his head, patient but firm. "Son, oil's a gamble. We're ranchers, not speculators. This life is honest." Luis, the quieter one, idolized his brother and echoed every word. "Yeah, Dad, Javier's right. We could be rich." They'd debate late into the night, Miguel ending it with, "Enough. Family isn't about money, it's about sticking together." By high school, the boys were restless. Javier got a job at a local hardware store, saving for college, but he resented the poverty. "We deserve better than this dust bowl," he'd mutter to Luis in their room. At 18, when Miguel offered him a full-time spot on the ranch, Javier exploded. "I ain't getting my hands dirty forever like you, Dad. I'm going to Dallas to make real money. Cars, houses, the works." Miguel's face fell, but he said nothing, just nodded and helped pack the truck. "Be safe, son. Remember where you came from," he said, hugging him tight. I saw the sadness in his eyes that night as he sat on the porch, nursing a beer, staring at the horizon. "Clara, we raised them right, but the world's changing them," he sighed. I held him close. "They'll come back to us, Miguel. Blood is thick." Luis followed a year later, moving in with Javier. "I'll miss you, Mom," he said, hugging me goodbye, "but Javier says the city's where the action is." At first, their success thrilled us. Javier got into real estate during the boom, flipping houses and making six figures. Luis became his partner, handling the books. They'd send checks, $500 here, $1,000 there. For the ranch, they'd say on calls, "Mom, Dad, use it for whatever." We bought a new truck, fixed the roof. I was so proud. Our boys escaped the hard life, I tell Miguel, beaming. But money twisted them. Visits became infrequent. They'd arrive in fancy SUVs, suits tailored and shoes shined, talking about investments and properties. "Mom, this place is outdated," Javier said during one rare dinner, kicking a loose board on the porch. "You and Dad should sell. There's oil under here. Surveys say so." Miguel bristled. "This land ain't for sale, son. It's our home." Luis's wife, Sofia, whom he married in 2005, was worse. A city girl with expensive tastes, she'd arrive in high heels that sank into the dirt, scanning our home with disdain. "Nice, quaint," she'd say, barely touching my cooking. "Next time, we'll take you to a real restaurant in Dallas. Something fancy." Luis would whisper apologies, but I heard the shame in his voice. "Sophia means well, Mom. She's just used to better." The most painful change came when their fortunes turned. The 2008 recession hit hard. Javier's deals soured, leaving him buried in debt. Luis, who'd started gambling to supplement income, lost big at underground poker games in Fort Worth. Calls came more often, but not for chat, for money. "Dad, just a loan. I'll pay back with interest," Javier pleaded over the phone. Miguel gave what he could from his veteran's pension, $80,000 saved over decades, but it never seemed enough. "Boys, this is the last time," Miguel warned during one tense visit. "We can't keep bailing you out." They pressured us relentlessly. "Get the land surveyed for oil," Javier urged, showing us glossy brochures. "Your pension won't last forever. Think of Mom's future if something happens to you." Miguel refused. "This ranch is our life, not a cash cow," he'd snap back.
I noticed odd things. Bank statements with unexplained withdrawals, $5,000 here, $10,000 there, Miguel's signature, but shaky. For repairs, he'd say when I asked, but I handled the books. I knew better. Miguel, what's going on? I'd press. Nothing, Clara, just helping the boys a bit.
One night, Miguel confided over coffee on the porch. Clara, the boys are desperate. Javier asked about my will, life insurance. It feels like a threat. His voice trembled. I dismissed it as worry from his war days. They're our sons, Miguel. They'd never harm us. How wrong I was. I hope you're right, he replied, pulling me close. But something's off. Javier said, at your age, accidents happen. Sounded like a warning.
The accident happened on a crisp October morning in 2024. Miguel loved hunting. Deer for the freezer, solitude for his soul. He left at dawn with his old Remington shotgun, a relic from Vietnam he'd maintained impeccably. Be back by noon, mi amor. Love you, he said, kissing me goodbye. I was in the kitchen brewing coffee when the sheriff's truck pulled up. Clara, there's been an incident. Miguel's gun exploded during the hunt. Shrapnel to the chest. He's gone. The world tilted. I dropped the pot, scalding water splashing my feet, but I felt nothing. How? He checked that gun every time, I screamed. Javier and Luis arrived at the scene before me, though the sheriff called me first. We were nearby visiting friends, they said vaguely. At the morgue, they handled everything. Paperwork, arrangements. No need for an autopsy, Mom. It was clear-cut, Javier said, patting my shoulder. We'll take care of the funeral. It was rushed. A plain pine casket, small graveside service under the oaks. Neighbors whispered, strange, no big send-off for Miguel. But grief clouded my mind. Why so quick? I asked Luis. Dad wouldn't want to fuss, Mom. Simple, like him, he replied, avoiding my eyes. At the grave, as the last shovel of dirt fell, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from an unknown number. I stepped away, pressing play with trembling fingers. A distorted voice. Clara, Miguel's death wasn't an accident. The gun was rigged to explode. Your sons did it, for the pension and the oil beneath the land. Don't trust them, they're watching. My breath caught. Oil? We'd heard rumors but never pursued. And my sons? Impossible. I glanced at Javier and Luis by the grave, their expressions oddly calm. Javier's arms crossed, Luis fidgeting with his phone. Everything okay, Mom? Javier asked, noticing my pale face. Just a wrong number, I lied, pocketing the phone. Something cold slithered down my spine. That voicemail ripped my world apart. I replied, Who is this? No answer. That night, alone in our bed that still smelled of Miguel, I replayed it. Boys, did you notice anything odd about Dad's gun? I asked them over a late supper. Javier shrugged. Old guns fail, Mom. Don't overthink it. Luis nodded quickly. Yeah, accidents happen. Another voicemail came. Check the bank accounts. See the transfers to their names. The next day, I drove to the Lubbock branch, heart pounding. Rosa, the teller who'd known us for 30 years, pulled the records. Clara, I'm sorry about Miguel. Here's the statements. My eyes widened. $15,000 wired to Javier, $10,000 to Luis, all in the last 3 months. Miguel authorized them, Rosa said for family investments. But the signatures looked off, too shaky for Miguel's steady hand. Did he come alone? I asked. Rosa paused. No, with the boys. Javier helped with the forms, said Miguel's eyes were bad. His eyes were fine, I muttered, storming out. Back home, I searched Miguel's desk. Hidden in a locked drawer, a note in his handwriting.
Javier pressuring for oil survey. Forced me to sign bank papers. Feels wrong. Hired P.I. Reyes to check. My pulse raced. Miguel, what did you know? I whispered to the empty room. Another voicemail. Contact Diego Reyes, local detective. Miguel trusted him with evidence.
I called Reyes that afternoon. Mrs. Ramirez, your husband came to me 3 weeks ago, he said over the phone. Suspicious of the boy's behavior, hired me to investigate discreetly. We met at a quiet diner on the outskirts of town. He was in his 50s, grizzled with a no-nonsense stare. Ex-cop turned PI. Let's cut to it, he said, sliding over a folder. Financial records showing Javier owed $120,000 to loan sharks in Dallas. Luis, $80,000 in gambling debts. Secret land surveys. Oil reserves estimated at $5 million if drilled. Miguel refused to sell or drill, Reyes explained. With him dead, the ranch is yours. Then theirs is heirs. The pension pays out $80,000 immediately.
But the real bombshell? Recordings from bugs Miguel allowed Reyes to place in the boys' trucks and phones. Reyes played one. Javier's voice low and cold. Dad's stubborn. The gun needs fixing. File the barrel, add extra powder, make it look like a misfire. Hunting accident. Pension covers our debts. Oil makes us rich. Luis, what if mom suspects? Javier, grief will make her crazy. We institutionalize her, take control. Easy.
I wept for hours. My boys, my babies, planned this? Memories flooded. Javier's first words, Luis's toddler hugs, family holidays with laughter and love. Why? I whispered. Reyes sighed. Desperation. Debts were closing in, threats from collectors. They saw Miguel as an obstacle. What now? I asked, wiping tears. We build more evidence, but be careful. They're dangerous. We dug deeper. Reyes had more. Photos of Javier buying explosive powder at a hardware store 50 miles away, using cash and a fake ID. Forensics on the gun fragments, deliberate filing to cause backfire. Bank trails linking transfers to their debt payments. Another recording. After Dad, Mom's next. Poison her coffee, make it look like suicide from grief. They wouldn't, I gasped. Reyes nodded grimly. They would. Stay vigilant. Fear gripped me. The voicemails were from Reyes, using distortion for safety. Act normal, he advised. They visited 2 days later, Javier and Luis with Sofia. Mom, we need to discuss the future, Javier said, pouring coffee I didn't touch. Sell the ranch. The oil company's offering $2 million. Your mind's not right since Dad. Sofia smiled sweetly. A retirement home would be perfect. We'll manage the money for you. Manage it how? I asked, voice steady. Luis shifted. Invest it smart. You don't know business like we do. Javier leaned in. Sign the papers, Mom, for your own good. I stalled. Let me think on it. Sofia frowned. Don't wait too long. Grief can make decisions hard. That night, Reyes and I planned the showdown. Invite them for dinner. Say you'll sign, he said. We'll be ready. I called Javier. Boys, come over tomorrow. I'll sign the papers. His voice lit up. Great, Mom. We'll bring the documents. The confrontation. Dinner at the ranch. I served brisket, hands shaking. Before we sign, tell me, did you notice anything with Dad's gun? Javier paused mid-bite. What? No, why? I played the recording on my phone. Their faces drained of color. What is this bullshit? Javier snarled, standing. You regged it, I shouted. Luis bolted for the door, but Reyes and deputies burst in from the barn. Freeze! You're under arrest for murder! Sofia screamed. Luis, what did you do?
Javier lunged at me. "You ruined everything!" A deputy tackled him.
Confessions came in custody. "We were drowning in debt," Javier sobbed to the sheriff. "Dad wouldn't help. It was him or us." Luis broke down. "Javier made me. I didn't want to, Mom. Forgive me?" I turned away. No forgiveness for killers.
The trial in Lubbock was a media circus. Prosecutors laid out evidence, recordings, photos, forensics. Defense lawyers grilled me. "Mrs. Ramirez, isn't this grief talking?" one asked. "No," I replied firmly. "This is truth." I took the stand, voice steady despite tears. I raised them with love, sacrificed everything. They repaid it with murder, for money. Javier yelled from his seat, "We did it for the family!" The judge banged his gavel. The jury deliberated 4 hours. Guilty on first-degree murder, conspiracy. Life sentences without parole for 25 years.
Justice brought closure, but not healing. I sold drilling rights responsibly, using proceeds and pension to fund scholarships for orphaned kids, Miguel's dream for giving back. "This is for you, mi amor," I whispered at his grave. The ranch became a community farm, teaching youth about honest work.
5 years on, I sit on that porch, feeling Miguel in the wind. "We made it through, love," I say to the stars. "Greed destroyed our family, but my strength rebuilt hope." Remember, listeners, family is precious, but truth is sacred. If this story touched you, share in the comments. What would you do in my shoes? Like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more true life stories. Thanks for listening. See you next time.